Good morning, gang. 3 a.m. thereabouts here on Thursday morning. This was not the video I had planned for today. Certainly didn't expect to be up at 3 o'clock in the morning. Had gone to bed last night, and about 11 o'clock, rolled over. Mrs. P woke me up and said, "It started." What was that? She's like, "War." Now, let me be the first to admit I was wrong. I did not see this happening. This still makes absolute zero logical sense to me. Okay. But Russia has, in one way, shape, or form, invaded Ukraine. Okay. As is. Mrs. P's been up all night monitoring the Russian media, the Russian news, and the alt media in Russia, primarily because obviously the state-sponsored media is only going to tell you one side of the story. I've been up for an hour or so reading the European and the American news on what's going on. This is not a minor deal, guys. This is serious. And again, like I said, I apologize. I was wrong, and this did happen. Throw all the hate at me that you want. It's fine by me. Don't care. You know, I thought about this logically. Obviously, Putin isn't a logical man at this point. Okay. Mrs. P wrote something here real quick for me to read to you, her comment. I'm going to read this and then I'm going to kind of get into some details. Mrs. P's words. It is impossible to explain it rationally. This is militaristic schizophrenia. The economic, political, and historical consequences of this step for Russia are devastating. The global economy will experience stress but recover relatively quickly from it. Russia, no. The American economy will probably benefit from this war. Do you remember the theory of madness? When Nixon pretended to be an unruly politician toward the countries of the Eastern Bloc, it was part of his strategy. Putin's not pretending. Now the stories from Russian political scientists that he and the Russian Minister of Defense go to Siberian shamans, analogous to voodoo. Okay, they sacrifice an eagle and a bear. The shamans promise Putin that he will become king of the world, and he believes in it, and it no longer seems conspirational. Now, about the dangers for the U.S., you once asked me if a repeat of the Caribbean-Cuban Missile Crisis is possible. Let's compare Putin and Biden with Khrushchev and Kennedy. Khrushchev and Kennedy both fought in World War II. Okay, Khrushchev was up in Leningrad and actually lost a son in the fighting. Okay, both knew war firsthand with its horrors. Filth, blood, and guts wound on the tracks of tanks. No matter how strong the tension between our countries was, both of them wanted to avoid the most terrible thing, war. Sorry, it's early. Putin has never experienced anything like this in his life. No shells were exploding over his head. His children did not die in a war. He has rather romantic ideas about war. And here his idea of himself as a person with a historical mission to restore Russia to its former imperial greatness, and a personalistic regime of government, where the ministers of finance and defense were the ministers of finance and defense simply afraid to report to him about the true state of affairs? Remember the 2018 presentation that showed Russian warheads bombing Florida during Putin's address to the Federal Assembly? He truly believes he can win any war and seems to be itching to fight. Throw in the nuclear button and Putin's unpredictability, and you have a monkey with a grenade. Those are Mrs. P's words, okay? And I think we can all agree she is more of a expert on growing up in Russia than any of us possibly could be, okay? So here it is. Like I said, it's now 3:23 in the morning, okay? And it is 10:23 in Kiev. So a little more than 5 hours ago, this all went down. All right, this started somewhere around 10 o'clock Eastern Time in the States. Russia is apparently bombing, as they put it, military infrastructure and air defense capabilities of Ukraine. Now, the first thing this tells me is that, they're saying, there's no harm coming to civilians or anything like that. And they're saying that the Ukrainians are laying down their arms and running away. Okay, so now the first thing that tells me is everything we've been told by the US media, by the European media, by the Eastern Asian media, and by the Russian media for the last months has been bullshit. That the Ukrainians weren't well armed, weren't ready for this, and certainly weren't the aggressors in Lugansk and Donetsk. Because if they're running away from a fight 5 hours into it, certainly doesn't mean that if they're running away from a fight, they certainly weren't trying to start one. Let's put it this way. Now, what gets worrisome here is, you can obviously understand that Zelensky has put Ukraine under martial law. You can understand that all the airspace over the whole territory has been shut down. That all makes sense. This is where it gets very scary. And Putin I don't know what the hell happened, because like I've said for months, logically, this makes no sense. Putin stands nothing to gain. So, adding territory or whatever it is, he doesn't need the grain fields. He's got pipelines into Europe to sell, oil, natural gas, whatever it is, so there's no need to do this. There's no benefit other than being imperialistic, okay, wanting to build an empire. And I know everybody talks about Putin wants to put the Soviet Union back together. Like I said, sorry, it's early. This is what I look at. Putin went into Georgia. Nobody did anything. Putin went into Crimea. Nobody did anything. All this talk for months and months and months about Putin going into Ukraine, and nobody did anything. And then it's like, we're going to put sanctions on you. You think the Russians aren't used to sanctions? Do you think Putin really cares about sanctions? He's one of the richest men in the world. Granted, it's all stolen money, stolen from the people of Russia. But do you think he really cares? Oh, gee, I can't buy this. Remember what I said? Well, maybe I didn't, because I think it's in the other video that I haven't put up. Oligarchs, like Democrats, think the people are dirt under their feet, to use Mrs. P's quote. That's pretty much what Putin thinks of his entire population. They're all there to serve him. And so now we get who, at this point, I think we can all agree is now officially a madman, because you don't do things like this as a rational, logical person. But this is where it gets scary. Quote from Putin: "As for the military sphere, modern Russia, even after the collapse of the USSR and the loss of a significant part of its nuclear potential, is today one of the most powerful nuclear powers, and moreover, it has certain advantages in a number of the latest types of weapons. In this regard, no one should have any doubt that a direct attack on Russia will lead to defeat and dire consequences for a potential aggressor." Now, basically, Putin is threatening the rest of the world on a nuclear option, should there be any retaliation against Russia. But when he says a direct attack on Russia, what does that mean? Does that mean if somebody goes to bomb Moscow, he's going to retaliate with a nuclear strike? Does that mean if a Ukrainian soldier shoots a Russian soldier, that's going to be a direct attack on Russia? Does that mean if the West puts sanctions on Russia, that's a direct attack? Does it mean freezing assets? Does it mean shutting down Nord Stream 2? What direct attack is a very vague term, because any of those are direct attacks. Direct attack on what? On Russia's military, on Russia's infrastructure, on Russia's economy. Putin basically threatened the world here that he will respond with nuclear options. Now, I've said that this has been going on since 2014, not bombing of Kiev and Odessa and Mariupol and everything like this. Okay, not that, but skirmishes in eastern Ukraine. This has gotten a little bigger. The scariest part here is, when you have skirmishes, they're usually between two countries. According to authorities, Ukraine was attacked at 5 a.m., not only from the south through Crimea and from the east, but also from the north through Belarus, okay? Targeting Lugansk, Sumy, Kharkov, Chernihiv, and Zhytomyr. If Belarus is now involved, if the Belarusian troops are involved in this, now you do have the makings of a war. I don't care that Putin is calling this a special operation or whatever it is. War is war. You can call it whatever you want. I mean, you can call it a hoedown in Eastern Europe. It's still a freaking war. But if Belarus is involved, now you have two nations going in, and that is going to warrant response, which now gets scary. And I'm not trying to fear porn or anything. I'm just trying to give you what's going on. And of course, apologize for me being wrong. But that was how I saw it. And sorry, I can't walk on water, so I'm going to make mistakes. I still believe this is idiotic, that there's no reason for it, but nobody ever said we elected the smartest people in the world to run countries. What do we do from here? Well, all right, we've talked about this many times, economically, money, stuff like that. The markets are getting hammered this morning, as of right now. Granted, it's 3:30 in the morning now. Dow futures are down about 680 points. Gold is up $33, 1943. I mean, that's a few-year high. Silver's back up over $25 an ounce. So you're going to see a lot of strange things happen. Financially, this is going to affect all of us. What we have to watch now is what happens going on the rest of the day, the rest of the weekend. I mean, obviously wars don't last a couple of days. This is obviously going to be a very fluid situation. As things come up, I will certainly see what I can find, what Mrs. P can find. You can imagine the anxiety around this household is pretty high at the moment. So it is what it is, guys. Now we have to figure out how we manage this. It ain't on our soil, yet. Let's just hope it stays away. But with the leadership we currently have, not only in the United States, but in NATO altogether, and the economic disaster that basically the world is in, you can almost bet that these countries are going to go, gee, this might help our economy going to war. Hell, it'll make my political career do a little bit better. Maybe I can win another election. Who cares if it costs 5,000 lives for me to do it? That's who's making the decisions, guys, and that's their thought process. Putin's not strapping a rifle to to his back, or a rucksack and putting a rifle in his hand. Biden's not getting into a tank and driving one, whatever would be. They just kind of go, you, and you, and we, Joe useless, in their eyes, Joe expendable goes and puts his life on the line and does the dirty work for something that probably could have been completely avoided. Tulsi Gabbard came out overnight. Y'all know who Tulsi Gabbard is, right? Democrat. More of a traditional Democrat, not one of these left-wing, far left wackos, right? She put a tweet out last night. This war and suffering could have been easily avoided if the Biden administration and NATO had simply acknowledged Russia's legitimate security concerns regarding Ukraine's becoming a member of NATO, which would mean U.S. NATO forces right on Russia's border. She is correct. However, that's also using logic. That's the big problem we have right here. Logically, what's going on right now makes zero sense. I'll keep you posted as if I hear more stuff. I'm assuming you guys will send me plenty of emails as you find information that maybe I haven't seen. There's probably going to be a lot of YouTube chatter today talking about this. One thing I will say, guys, please, please, please make sure when you hear some of this stuff that you go verify the information. I know the fearmongers are going to be out in force. And, it's not like this isn't Red Dawn. We don't have troops landing out in the cornfields next door yet. Okay. Could happen? Sure. Again, possible or probable. Always possible, not necessarily probable. Just stay calm, keep doing what you're doing, and, look at this and go, okay, how do I come out the other side? Why do I prep? This is something we prep for, guys. Keep doing it. Probably talk to you many times today. Pinball out.